Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Boro Fan TV and the Monday Night Show with me, James Hutchinson. Joining me tonight are David Campbell and Joe Scott again. Welcome to the show, lads. How are you doing?
Hello, lads.
Evening. All well, yourself?
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's been a great week on the pitch, lads, for the Boro. Victories over Luton and Birmingham have propelled the Boro into the top six. We're also, as well as looking back at those two games against Luton and Birmingham, we're going to look ahead to what will hopefully be two games this coming week against Rotherham and Tony Pulis' Sheffield Wednesday. As always, Boro fans, we'd love to hear from you, so get yourselves involved tonight on the Monday Night Show. So, David, I'll come to you first. Luton Town, I think it's safe to say that it wasn't the easiest game on the eye last Wednesday night, but there was plenty of talking points, wasn't there, mate? I mean, what did you read into, first of all, Neil Warnock naming an unchanged side from the one that started the previous game against Millwall?
Yeah, I mean, it made sense not to change a winning side, so I understood it. And we spoke briefly about it the week before, and we were expecting a tough game and scrappy and put 10 men behind the ball. And they did that, didn't they?
Yeah, it did. And Joe, I mean, like David said there, it started off cagey and tight in the first half. Luton probably looked a little bit sharper, Joe. And after the game, it emerged that Neil Warnock said that he got a bit animated with the players at half-time. We certainly saw a reaction from him in the second half, didn't we?
Yeah, can you definitely tell with the first half. I think the first half was sort of like, was going to be like Preston all over again. But going into the second half, you can see the change right off the bat, when particularly in the first 5 minutes, and until eventually Chuba Akpom got the goal in the end. And then after that, it was like sort of a wild second half, but without the goals.
Yeah. Looks like we might have lost David at the moment, so hopefully he'll come back and join us. And as you can see from our little link there, hopefully we might be getting joined later in the show by Tony Guest tonight. So Guest, you might be popping along as well for a little while later in the show as well. Spoke there a little bit about the first half against Luton, Joe. In that first half, probably one of the players that disappointed me a little bit, and we spoke about this off air a couple of minutes ago, was Marvin Johnson, who's had a fantastic season for us so far. But he obviously responded to the rocket that Warnock delivered at half-time. He played a big part in the goal that Chuba Akpom scored. He has had a massive impact on Boro's season so far, though, hasn't he, Marvin Johnson?
Yeah, I mean, completely surprised in the last couple of years, obviously. From when we signed him, I think it was Gary Monk who signed him, I think.
Yeah.
And then he went on loan to Sheffield United for a bit, and then he came back at the start of last season, and he looked a completely different player since then. Yeah. And this season, I think it's probably better than the last game that he played. So I think it's getting to that sort of period, where Johnson can be a crucial player for us. And I think over the last few games, he's definitely done that.
Yeah. Great to have you back, David. Everything all right, Paul?
Oh, yeah, just lost connection. Sorry about that.
Don't worry about it, mate. We've just talked about Marvin Johnson's role in the game against Luton, and he obviously played a big part in the goal that Chuba Akpom scored. Talking about Akpom, David, great to see him get his first goal since the beginning of October. He's got 3 so far this season. What do you think is maybe a reasonable target for him to achieve in terms of goals this year? Or do you think it's more important, or other things rather than his goals that are important with Akpom this season?
Yeah, I mean, we've touched upon our strikers aren't going to get many chances whilst there's only one up top. So I think if he can hit double figures, it'd be a good season. But I think it's his all-round game. He needs to interchange with the midfielders a little bit better. And I thought he did that against Luton. I thought he did do that. And he seems to play better when he's alongside Watmore.
Yeah. Got a few points coming in from people who are watching the show tonight. David Richardson, long-standing Boro fan, he's got in touch with us there saying about Marvin Johnson, Boro Dykes still like new players due to the management of Neil Warnock. And I think we've touched on that before, and I think there's no doubt in that whatsoever. And I think you're spot on there, David. The big talking point from the game, though, last Wednesday, Joe, was that, again, and it's how spooky is this, a double hit penalty at the same ground within a month. First of all, though, before they got the penalty, Marcus Bettinelli came in for a little bit of criticism again with regards his method of shot stopping. And it seems strange in a way that Boro fans have been a little bit critical of a keeper who's kept 9 clean sheets in 20 league games, but he has copped a fair bit of flack, hasn't he, recently?
Yeah, because obviously us Boro fans will be expecting a lot of our goalkeepers, I think, since the days of probably Schwarzer. But to be fair, though, I think Bettinelli's the sort of keeper that we've desperately craved for since, Darren Randolph left. So I can see where Boro fans are giving a bit of slack, but at the end of the day, 9 clean sheets, it's something that you don't really see nowadays from Boro players. So I think it's the fair case that Bettinelli is becoming a crucial player for the club, and I think the clean sheets have helped showing that over the last couple of games.
Yeah, just touching on a point you made there, Joe. Do you think, David, in a way, we were a little bit spoilt by Darren Randolph and his time in goal at the Boro recently?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he nailed the spot down, didn't he? After Valdez as well, who Valdez came under criticism as well. All he's achieved in the game, and then Boro fans just seem to give slack to the keepers, don't they? So I don't know what it is. But Randolph shot stopping, I think he's probably been the best keeper we've had, even over Schwarzer. Yeah.
I mean, good points here again from the viewers as always. Boro Rich, Bettinelli keeps clean sheets as he never faces many shots. He's no Randolph, but decent. And then Kev Short, just highlighting your point there, David. We used to give Schwarzer grief back in the day, if I remember rightly. And that's true. That, I mean, like you say, you look back now and you say, what a keeper Mark Schwarzer was. But he had his critics inside the stadium at times, didn't he, David?
Yeah, I mean, when he first signed from Bradford, he for the first 6 months, he was crucified for his kicking as well. And then when he improved on his kicking, then found flaws in his shot stopping, and look what he achieved with the club. I mean, I watched the Boro Icons when Schwarzer was on it earlier in the week, and you look back at it now and you just don't realise how good of a servant and a player he was for this football club.
Yeah, great points, mate. Again, heading back to the Luton game, the referee, Andy Davis, on the night, he deemed Sam Morsey's intervention as a deliberate handball. So he not only awarded a penalty, he then sent the Egyptian off. Were you surprised that his dismissal was rescinded later in the week or not, Joe?
Definitely not. When I first looked at the decision in the first place, it did look really, really harsh, because he was trying to move his whole body out of the way, and Morsey couldn't do that, and then the ball just hit his arm. And obviously, the referee saw it as a deliberate handball, which I think raised a few eyebrows in my opinion. So, and I think we were lucky in the end that the red card got rescinded, because probably going into the game later on, but we definitely need Morsey for the game that was on in the weekend.
Yeah, I must admit, David, I was a little bit, after we'd won the game, I was thinking, do you know what? I don't think we'll get so lucky to get it rescinded, because we've got the 3 points, and I think they might just say, oh, you can take the ban that he's going to get from it. So it was a bit of a bonus to see it rescinded, or did you think it always was going to get rescinded, David?
No, I didn't think it would get rescinded. And then when Warnock spoke in his post-match comments saying that I've seen different angles from behind the goal, and then you see him get tugged back, you could understand why it was. But for the sake of only missing the one game, I didn't think we would actually appeal it. I know Warnock said straight away he was going to, but I just thought, because he'd played quite a lot of injuries, quite a lot of games since his injuries, we might have just gone with Wing without him for the weekend.
Yeah. No, it's a good point you make, and yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Then, Paul Scobie, thanks for watching from Northern Ireland, mate. Good evening. Hope you're well, pal. And then the penalty itself, they almost got away with it. I mean, it looked in all likelihood, that the referee was going to give the goal. I think, in truth, it was the intervention of the Boro players going over the linesman and getting onto the referee's case. I think he decided to consult with his linesman, didn't he, Joe?
Yeah, and you can tell from, obviously, when Collins dispatched the penalty, Marcus Bettinelli was up on his feet straight away to head the complaint over to the referee. And it took a bit of persuasion, but at the end of the day, I kept saying to myself, once the decision was made, that was definitely karma from, obviously, when the same thing happened to Tavernier at the Norwich game. So it was just karma at the end of the day, lads, to be fair.
Can I just say, lads, how refreshing it is to see Boro do that, though? Because over the years, we've been so nicey nice and seen stuff go against us. And the teams like Man United, they fight for every single decision, and it pays off.
Yeah. Do you think that's part of the Neil Warnock DNA on the club? Because maybe in the past we wouldn't have challenged things like you just say, well, do you know, it's a hard luck story for us.
Yeah, 100%. That gets drilled in on the training ground. Whether if it's a ping pong game or what have you, it shows the passion that they're fighting for every single thing, and they just want to win.
Yeah. Just going back to like players being transformed, Matthew Richardson's got in touch with us. Thanks for watching, Matthew. He said, have you ever seen a manager transform so many players like Warnock as Saville, Tav, Fry, House and McNair playing their best football, as well as the players that we mentioned earlier? And again, Joe, it's unbelievable that a club just seems to be totally transformed by a manager coming in. He's not even been here a year yet. In fact, it's probably not even 6 months he's been here. And yet he seems to have transformed so many players' careers. And with that, where the club's heading as well. He's had a massive impact, hasn't he, Neil Warnock?
He had to, when you could tell before he first came here, when the squad was under Jonathan Woodgate, you could see the squad were just low on morale. And going into the later batches of the season, even after the first lockdown, you could still see that the players were just low on confidence and morale. And then once Woodgate was sacked and Warnock came in, it just completely changed completely. You can see Warnock definitely got rid of the players that he didn't want to feel like he didn't want to play for the club anymore, like Gestead, for example. And the clubs that were on the fringes, like you have the likes, obviously, like Bowler, who we went on loan to Blackpool in the latter stages of last season. And then Marcus Brown, obviously, he had a couple of shares of injuries. And then Dyke Steele, for example, they're all improved under him. And I think it was just the fact that Warnock came in at the right time to build the club's morale and to get it up the table again.
Yeah. And talking about Warnock, David, there, I mean, obviously he criticised Boro's approach in the final 20 minutes of the game. But again, that's game management, and Warnock knows that inside out. And it was textbook how we saw that game out with 10 men, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we had the same when we played Stoke a couple of weeks ago. They were going down for numerous injuries. You know, if Nathan Jones' Luton side were 1-0 up against Bournemouth for the weekend, you're telling me he wouldn't have done it as well. You know, you just do it to get the points. And like you said, it's typical Neil Warnock tactics. Yeah.
Couple of questions here for you lads from the viewers. Danny Weld, I'll throw this one to you, Joe, first of all. Can Sam Morsey be the new 2014-15 Adam Clayton to take us up? What do you make of that comment?
I'd say we go even better than Adam Clayton. I think he's the new Grant Leverton, to be fair. It was the sort of midfield general like we've been lacking since he was at the club. And obviously, I was surprised that no other club approached Wigan for him in the last transfer window, and we were lucky enough to get him when we had the chance.
Yeah. I think we've got him at a bargain price, haven't we? And obviously, unfortunately, Wigan have had their own demise and problems, but we certainly capitalised on that with getting Sam Morsey in. And question for you here, David, is a one from Dave Richardson, back in touch again. Can you boys, go to all three, but you can come in first, David. Can you see the Gaffer staying on past this season?
Personally, I think so. Providing obviously health reasons and what have you. He seems like he's obviously happy working for Gibson, but I think because of the way the season is and fans not being in the ground, I think he actually wants to give it a shot and see what the full Borough package is with the fans in the ground, home and away. And I think he'll judge that over the full course of the season. And I think some of his signings and his contract renewals, I think they indicate that they've already been told he's going to be here next season. That's just me personally. I don't know that, but that's what I'm just guessing.
What about yourself on that, Joe?
Yeah, I completely agree with what David said there. I'd say give him another 12 to 18 months, obviously, depending on how he wants to go. He wants to be in the club for a bit longer than that, you know. Yeah. But I'd definitely like to see him stay on for at least another 2 years or so. And obviously, 100% agree with what David said earlier.
I think in a way he's in a win-win situation, whatever happens with the rest of the season, because I think he's put the foundations in place that if we fall short and we either don't make the playoffs or we make the playoffs and maybe miss out on promotion, there's a good ground in there to have another go next season. And then if the best thing happens and we do get promoted, I think it'd be far too tempting for him to walk. He couldn't walk away from that if he gets us promoted to the Premier League, could he?
No, I couldn't agree more.
So I think there's a fair chance that Neil Warnock will be here next season. So fingers crossed. He's doing an amazing job so far, and long may it continue.
Definitely.
Like Kev Short's been in touch as well there. He's just said, I genuinely think Warnock wants another promotion before he retires. Give him 2 more seasons. So, yeah, we'll see how things go. Football, things can change very quickly, but I think the consensus of opinion at the minute with Boro fans is they'll be delighted to see Neil Warnock stay for quite a while yet, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think it says a great deal as well that his wife and his sons come down as well. I was a bit worried of how the travelling would take its toll, but he seems to have settled well with the flights and with them joining him, so he must be enjoying the area as well.
Lads, we'll swiftly move on to the Birmingham City game now. So it was on to St Andrews at the weekend, Joe. Hoping to improve on our 3-point haul from the previous 3 weeks' double headers, and we did it. But first of all, pre-match, we saw that Britta Sombolonga and Lewis Wing came into the side. And once again, another Neil Warnock masterstroke. Although in the first 20 minutes, it didn't quite look that way, did it, Joe?
No, I think that when I first took the lineup, and I would have thought, looking at the lineup, it would probably raise a few eyebrows amongst Boro fans that Sombolonga and in particular Lewis Wing was starting, to be truthful. But like the first 15 minutes of the game, and I think Birmingham were the better side, and Jeremy Bella absolutely tortured us down the left-hand side, and then they got a bit lucky with the goal with Maxine Collins slotted in, and then I think we pretty much had to wait until like the half-hour marker for us to get going in the game, and probably need to thank Marcus Bettinelli for keeping Scott Hogan out beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, that's, we were a little bit critical of Bettinelli earlier on the show, and people have been in recently, so credit where credit's due. That was a real game changer, that, wasn't it, David?
Yeah, it was a very good save at a crucial point of the game, and it set us up. And I think it was only like 5 minutes after he made that save that we went on and equalised, so it was crucial.
Yeah, and as you say, we equalised 5 minutes later, and it was that man Britta Sombolonga coming back at the side scored. And again, another player that's copped a lot of criticism of Boro fans over the years, not just this season, but over the years. And at times we've suggested as well on this programme that maybe the lone striker role doesn't suit him, but on Saturday, it seemed to suit him down to a T, didn't it, David?
Yeah, he played really well. His whole game was impressive. I know he gets quite a lot of criticism for his hold-up play, but I thought that was brilliant. I think with Britta Sombolonga, you can't afford to do it 1 in 10 games. That's his problem. He needs to be a bit more consistent. I think now Akpom had scored, I think it has given him the bullet he needed. But I think it helps that we're getting men around him and getting more people in the box. And that's what brings the best out of Britt. Yeah.
And Joe, I mean, what do you subscribe to this view that sometimes certain players have teams where they just seem to do well against, and Britt, obviously, as a liking to Birmingham City, I think I read somewhere at the weekend that's 7 goals in 7 appearances against Birmingham. Can you put your finger on why maybe certain players like to play against certain clubs?
I don't know. I think it's just from what they've built on since they began their careers, and obviously Britt obviously has been the scourge of Birmingham City over the last couple of years, and thankfully, that this sort of fixture worked to his advantage. And obviously, I think Warnock probably saw that before going into the game, and that's probably why he started him in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking, can you think over the years, lads, of players that have been a bit of a nemesis for the Boro? I always remember Jonathan Stead always used to seem to score against the Boro, and I don't know why, but he always seemed to score against us. Do you think of any players that always seem to do well against us?
Kanu was one. Oh, God.
I know.
Sorry, Joe.
I can remember Kanu for definite.
Yeah, there's just some players that just seem to take a certain liking to certain teams. But mentioned Britt, Lewis Wing again, great comeback for him. 2 goals. I know Steve Martin was the referee at the weekend, but the laughs were on Neil Etheridge, I think, a little bit, weren't they?
2 goals. You giving him the first one, are you?
Football League have given him it today as well. So that was 2 goals for Lewis Wing, yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, but he did. I mean, and in fairness, Joe, he's probably one of the better keepers in the Championship, but he had a real off day on Saturday, didn't he?
Yeah, I was certainly rate him as well from his days at Cardiff, but he completely had an off day, and regarded particularly where if you have likes of Lewis Wing on the pitch, because to be fair, he could have done better with the fourth goal as well. To be fair,
yeah.
Warnock and his reverse psychology praising him before the match. That's what it was.
Probably, yeah. You know, all the years of experience he's had, you might be right there. We'll just come on to these comments in a moment. Like I say, great comeback for Lewis Wing. And hopefully that's the confidence booster that he needs, David, because 2 years ago, as fans do, they get a little bit carried away when players hit a good run of form. And Boro fans were making out Lewis Wing was the best thing since sliced bread. And probably the truth somewhere in between. Yes, he's plateaued a little bit since then, but it was great to see him have a really positive impact on that game at the weekend.
Yeah, it was. And James, obviously you watch a lot of non-league football and you do get a lot of inconsistency from the lower league players, don't they? So I don't think fans really understand how big of a jump it is going from Shildon to the Championship. So he isn't going to perform as an 8 of a 10 every week. The only problem I think with Lewis Wing is sometimes he can be a bit of a luxury player. I mean, at the weekend it suited us because he played in a 3-man midfield, so he had a bit of freedom to roam. I think when he's in as a 2, he gets found out because he just doesn't offer the whole package. He is like a luxury player, similar to Ozil at Arsenal, I find.
Yeah, and maybe how Warnock sets up, Joe, that's not to what he is liking or what he wants to set his team up as, is it?
No, you can, with the squad we have at the moment, you just have to rotate players at different times, and we just, I think we had a bit of a luck of the break and the master stroke we needed to get past Birmingham. And like you were saying on Lewis Wing coming from non-league, from Shildon, for example, we have to remember we have 2 other players who came through from non-league as well, in Stanford Harron and Desai Jones. So there are quite a few gems that you can get from non-league football that can improve on the big stage.
Yeah, without a doubt. Just going back to our Boro nemesis, I've got some names here, absolute nightmare names here from Boro's past to throw at you lads. Here's one from Kev Short, Chef Kikuki.
Oh, God, yeah.
He
was useless him as well, wasn't he?
What is it? Who's the lad at Sheffield Wednesday that plays up front? Newey.
Yeah.
He's another one that always, hopefully not next week if he's still kicking about. He's gone, Joe.
I think so. I think he's left, yeah.
Has he left? That's all right then. And then Jacob Ross, thanks for watching, Jacob. Mentions there about Britain playing with confidence on Saturday, which he definitely seems to do. But the big nemesis to the Boro, Michael Chopra, there's another name from the past that did it with numerous clubs against the Boro.
Yeah, particularly when he was at Sunderland.
Yeah, Sunderland, yeah. I remember him scoring a goal there in a derby game against Slice. He did that, yeah. There's a lot of people, again, coming in with a lot of praise for the likes of Dyke Steele, Tony Jeffries. 3 games back, what a difference it makes. He did have a sticky start to that game on Saturday in the first 20 minutes or so, but I think maybe an illustration of how well he played and how he responded was the fact that the man that he was up against went off in the second half, and then Dyke Steele looked so composed again, didn't he, David?
Yeah, I mean, he's just, and he's only playing at 70% as well, apparently, which is a scary, you know. I still worry about him sprinting at the moment if he's only on 70%. You know, I think this week a break has come at a crucial period just to get the likes of him a little bit more fitter.
Yeah. And Joe, it's so good to see. I mean, as with our previous away win early in the season at Bristol City, Neil Warnock gathered all the players on the pitch at the final whistle, got him in the huddle. He's famed for creating an amazing team spirit at whatever club he's at. And it's almost like night and day in comparison to previous seasons at the club. He really seems to be hitting on something here at the Boro, doesn't he?
Yeah, and you can see the team morale's been building like minute by minute, and that's just what you need at the club. That compared to where we were the last couple of seasons or so.
Yeah, and Paul Scobie makes a point, David, about the next 6 games are winnable, and in his conference after the game on Saturday, Neil Warnock was saying he'd be pleased to be within 3 or 4 points of the playoffs by January. But looking at the next 6 games, if you just look at the next 4, which are Rotherham, hopefully, Sheffield Wednesday away, Wickham away, Birmingham then at home, is it realistic to expect not just to be within maybe 3 or 4 points of the top 6, but hopefully have at least consolidated a place in that top 6?
Yeah, I'd definitely say so. After the last couple of 3 results on the bounce, it set us in good stead going with some confidence. I can't really see us dropping many points against those 4 teams. So maybe Sheffield Wednesday will be the other game, but the others you'd expect us to win.
Yeah. And Joe, I mean, you've got to say, at the end of the day, not only the players, but the management, the backroom staff, they deserve a heck of a lot of credit for not only what's going on at the end of last season, but certainly in the last 6 weeks when you've been playing double headers every week for 6 weeks. When you've got a squad the size that we've got, it's not the biggest of squads, yet they've managed to push on and get a place in the top 6. That's credit to everybody involved in the club, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah, definitely. From the coaching staff to the medical staff and everybody around the club, it's been a huge team effort these last few weeks. I mean, the only good thing now is that we've got a week break to possibly to build up the tiredness out of the way, but it could be 2 weeks, depending on what's going to be happening on Boxing Day, whether the game's going to be on or not. But it's like I said, the club have done well to rally the team on from staff to players over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And James, that's what you want, don't you? Once you've won a game, you just want to play again. So that with us playing so many games on a bounce, it has actually helped us.
Yeah. I think it is. It's a strange season this year for everybody, not just the Boro, but with the quick turnaround in games, it can work both ways. If you're winning, it's fantastic. You're looking forward to the next game, but also, I suppose, if you lose and you want the chance to redress the balance and say, oh, we need to get the next game to try and turn things around. But like I said, with the size squad we've got, it is difficult to do that. But they've managed to do it. They've got the way through those 6 weeks, and we're still in a favourable position. And like you say, you can't even go up the top 2. But are we getting carried away? Are we getting ahead of ourselves, David? Do you think, just steady things down, just keep expectations on the quiet, keep it on the low, because there's a long way to go. Things can change quickly. Or do you think, the first half of the season's almost up. There's nothing really to be afraid of in this division?
We've touched upon it before, haven't we? I mean, there is nobody in that league I think we should be wary of. But as I think Warnock wants us to look as the underdogs and like we're overachieving, just to lower the expectations. So if we do anything on top of that, it's a bonus. But I think deep down within the camp, he knows what he's working with, and I think he does see us up there challenging. Maybe not for obviously the top 2, but he does realise we've got a good squad.
Yeah. And Joe, just before we leave the Birmingham game, Ian Ross has got in touch with his knee and said there, even when we went 1-0 down, you still believe that this team can come back and win it. And not so long ago, we would have given up the ghost at 1-0 down. And do you think that's a fair point?
Yeah. I mean, a good chance, if Scott Hogan took that chance, made it 2-0, I probably would have considered it game over. But luckily, the lads, after the half hour, just got going and got the 4 goals and got the win that we needed going into the the little break that we have going into the next couple of games before the start of the new year.
Yeah. And then obviously we've got the transfer window just over 10 days away from opening again. And it was interesting at the weekend, David, to see one potential target who's been heavily linked with the club, Nick Balassi, appear on Soccer AM. And speaking about the influence Neil Warnock's had during his career, do you think he'll be one of these 2 or 3 players that Warnock's mentioned coming to the club, arriving in January?
Yeah, I'd say there's a very good chance that there's obviously been talks going on, and with him openly talk about Warnock, when the players tend to do that, I think it does indicate how much he would like to come and join him. And I think previously with the 3 or 4 transfer bids that we've had for him and they've gone down, I think he might just want to come back and prove a point. At first I thought that it was all for publicity the first few times we were after him, but he does seem keen, and he has got a point to prove.
Yeah. And before we move off the transfer window subject, Joe, I mean, not only is it about bringing players in, it's also, will we lose any players? And Paul Scobie's made that point. Do you think we might lose some players in January? Is there a concern that might happen?
There could be a possibility, depending on whether we let some players go just to reduce the wage bill. If we're going to bring the likes of Balassi in, obviously, I think one of the casualties, is going to be Patrick Roberts, because we might have to send him back to City. And I know that Celtic have been linked with him recently. So it depends if he goes for him and Vlasic to come in. Yeah, probably Dale Fry could be another possibility as well, whether Premier League clubs are going for him. So it just depends. It's actually going to be the ratio, I think, and that's going to be the difference in players going out the club.
Yeah. Guesty, great to see you with us tonight. How are you doing, pal?
How's it going?
All right, mate. I've been desperate to get on to talk to you all, man. It's hard being away, mate.
Yeah. Don't worry. We'll get you a full show next week, pal.
Yeah, I'm off next week, so break up tomorrow. So all good.
Good stuff. We've been talking on the show tonight, Tony, about the Luton game, the Birmingham game. We've just been touching on the transfer window. Like you say, we haven't spoke to you for a while. What have you made of the Boro season so far and the influence that Neil Warnock's had?
Oh, it's unbelievable. For the last, since Woodgate came in, and we've had all this carry on with Bowser and our recruitment team, and 2 of the 3 signings which they made last season, the improvement and what Warnock's done with them 2 is unbelievable. Even at the start of this season, Bowler, I didn't see a championship player in him, but to see them 2 now performing the way they are for Middlesbrough, it's unbelievable. His influence on everyone in that dressing room is absolutely massive, James. Saville is reaching the levels of performance which he was getting at Millwall. McNair, like, I know people are calling him Paddy De Bruyne, and you can see the comparison sometimes. The amount of miles that he's putting in, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable what's happening with our club. Obviously, our away form's dipped the last few weeks, but after Saturday's result, it looks like he's getting that sorted again. But I think it's at this moment in time, we've had lots of managers come in who's been criticised straight away. We've criticised the appointments, and these managers have come in and they haven't set the place on fire. Warnock, by some miracle, kept us up last season, and the way he's got these lads performing at the moment, with such a small squad, getting performances week after week, you can understand the dip in form in these away games, James, because the man's working an absolute miracle with that squad.
Yeah. And that's it. And we said there about the transfer window, Tony. I'll bring this into you, David. Ken Short's been in touch and said he can't see us selling anyone unless it's for stupid money. Obviously, the Bettinelli situation's out of our hands, but it looks as though Robert's the one that may go. But it's crucial that you don't upset the balance of the squad now, because with a little bit of tinkering and players coming in, there's a real chance that we could achieve something this season. But is it worth trying to cash in on a player like Dale Fry or Paddy McNair and probably blow your chances for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I don't think you upset the apple cart unless you have to financially. Anybody who does go out the door is going to need to be replaced. But personally, I know all fans like to see activity in the transfer window, but I don't want to go out and see us sign 5 or 6 players and upset the rhythm of the team. I think we've got a pretty strong, balanced team. I just think a few tweaks here and there, it could push us to the next level.
Yeah, definitely. So with that in mind, we've got the 2 games coming up hopefully next week, starting with Rotherham, Joe. How disappointing, though, would it be for you if that game's called off? I mean, obviously, it's the situation that we're in at the moment. There's other clubs that have their games called off in the past week, and Millwall have lost their next 2 games today due to COVID. But it'd be a disappointment if that game doesn't go ahead on Saturday from a Boro point of view, won't it?
Yeah, particularly on a day like Boxing Day. I think most a couple of fans will be looking forward to the Rotherham game because they'll probably see it on paper as another win. But as I saw on the EFL on Quest, Derby literally arrived at Rotherham like on the 11th hour, only to find out their game has been postponed due to an outbreak, a COVID outbreak in the Rotherham camp. So I know it's in doubt at the moment, but looking at it in a way, I hate to say it being called off, but I won't be surprised if it is, to be honest.
And Tony, you've supported the Boro long enough, like I have, and many other people. And there's a temptation, Boro fans think, it's Rotherham at home. The run we're on, we won 3 in a row. That's another 3 points, tick it off. Doesn't work like that, though, does it, mate?
No, No, let's. It's like I've been watching the shows, I've been following on social media, and I was wanting to scream down the screen at you last week when you, James, were talking about get your hotel booked for the playoffs. I thought, God, here we go again. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. This league's brutal. It's an absolute nightmare. And yeah, Rotherham at home, it looks great on paper. It looks, you know, you two have most probably played Rotherham this week on your PlayStation and beat them 12-0 or something. It's not like that. This league's not like that. And Rotherham at home, they'll come with a kit. They haven't been doing too bad. You know, the manager's highly thought of. They've gone playing decent football, but that if the game goes ahead, it's no pushover, James.
No, you're right. I mean, looking at Rotherham, they're just outside the relegation places on goal difference, and they've picked up 5 points from their 10 away games so far this season. So, yes, we're trying to dampen expectation a little bit, but lads, bearing that in mind, 3 wins in a row, the form that we're in at the moment. Give us your predictions. I'll come to you first, David.
I think it'll be similar to the Luton game. You know, they struggle away from home, so I think they'll put men behind the ball. But I think we'll just have enough to break them down, whether that be like a 1-0 win or a 2-0 win.
All right. Joe, how about yourself?
If it goes ahead, I think I'd say it on paper as a 2-0 Boro win, but Rotherham have got quite a few good players like Freddie Ladapo, Daniel Balassa, Matt Crooks, and I think their goalkeeper, Jamal Blackburn, had a loan spell with the Boro, but only for a brief period.
You all right, Joe?
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a 2-0 Boro win. Obviously, that depending if it goes ahead.
Yeah. And yourself, Tony, obviously, they've had Saturday off because they didn't play the derby game. So
yeah,
would that maybe work in their favour that they'll be a little bit fresher, or do you think that doesn't really count for anything at this stage of the season?
It could, James. Don't forget these lads have been playing twice a week for God knows how long.
Yeah.
They didn't have much pre-season. So, yeah, I dare say it has done their squad they're good, but it's even more important for our squad to keep playing the run that we're on at the moment, James. If we can encourage Rotherham to keep the ball more than us, like Luton did, when the ball was eventually on the grass, I can see us winning 2 or 3-0. See, we're starting to reap the rewards now, James. All the hard work, all the hard work defensively. Everybody knows the role now. Everybody knows what Warnock wants, and the goals are starting to come now, James. So hopefully, if we can encourage Rotherham to have the ball and then hit them on the break like we've been hitting teams, I think we will be should be comfortable 2-0 winners. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to join you, lads. I'm going for a win on that count for that game. I think 2-0. I can see us win that 2-0. And it won't be easy. It won't be a stroll in the park. But I think, like you say, if we just organise, well drilled, you've got set pieces, which I think is maybe bugging Neil Warnock a little bit at the moment, that we're not getting goals from set pieces. I know he pulled McNair and Fry in about that after the Birmingham game, saying that probably the best defensive partnership in the league, but you just need to start chipping in with some goals as well, lads. I mean, he's not demanding, is he, Tony?
He's definitely not demanding. Like you say, he's had Dale Fry in for his lack of goals. And what gets me is when we get dead ball situations, like it's about one of the only things I agree with Maddo on. I was going to call him De Bruyne there. McNair should be on absolutely everything. I know we had Lewis back in the side Saturday and he was absolutely fantastic. And I believe he's been credited with a first goal as well. So, it's been a problem for a while for us, set pieces, scoring goals. Even when we had Big Aidan Flint, we struggled on set pieces.
Yeah.
But, Warnock leaves no stone unturned. And if it's not happening for him, he'll have him in, James.
Yeah, he will.
We touched upon it last week about set pieces regarding throw-ins as well. Yeah. It's just not the corners and attacking free kicks. Our throw-ins have been really poor.
Yeah. It does seem an issue. And a man that will certainly have his team drilled for set pieces is in the game that follows, the big reunion with Tony Pulis. It's a game that doesn't need much build-up, does it? Not only have you got the Pulis angle, you've got Neil Warnock going back to Sheffield to take on Wednesday. looking at it from a Wednesday point of view, Joe, do you think Pulis will keep Sheffield Wednesday up this season?
It's just if they get the results. Obviously, they got lucky at the weekend by beating Coventry, but there were some other games that were below under par, and Sheffield were just below par in every game they were playing. But I think they do have the players to keep them up. It's just a matter of if Pulis can instill a bit of confidence with them. But at the moment, even though the beat Coventry at the weekend, they do struggle. They do struggle in some aspects.
Yeah, I said to you before we came on the show tonight, David, that I was so pleased that they actually won at the weekend, Sheffield Wednesday, because I just had a horrible feeling that his first win had probably come against us. So that's out the way now, isn't it?
Yeah, and that would be a typical a Boro scenario, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And Tony, as a fan, you know, this game against Sheffield Wednesday, it had seen Boro probably take the full. Well, it would have seen Boro take the full allocation down to South Yorkshire. There'd probably been a crowd in the ground of over 30,000 there for this match. On the field this season, it's been great, mate, but it's still tough to get used to not being there on a match day, isn't it?
Well, like you say, the four of us are sat here now, and not one of us has. I don't know if any of us got to go to the game where 1,000 were allowed in, but
no.
we're all watching the same game, James. We haven't seen none of these players' efforts live, you know, to see what they really are putting in, and it's so frustrating in there. You just want to, like you say, they've been absolutely rocking against Sheffield Wednesday away from home. They've been absolutely bouncing.
Yeah.
And it's sad it's not happening, James. Not just us as fans are missing out. Obviously, there's games that you watch now and you can see there's teams struggling, and you know for a fact that if them teams had their home fans behind them, it'd be a different kettle of fish. You know what I mean? You just have to look at the results Man United have been having at Old Trafford without fans there.
Yeah.
But to go, like you say, Sheffield Wednesday is one of the best away days of the season. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And like you say, they added another added bit of spice, another ex-Boro manager, Tony Pulis, and he'll know us inside out. This majority of this squad's is, and that's going to be another tough ask.
Yeah. I mean, what sort of reception? I'll throw this one to you, Joe. What sort of reception do you think Pulis would have got from the Boro fans there at Hillsborough?
Probably the best.
And picking up on what Tony said there, David, as well about fans and none of them allowed being into the ground and the negative effect it's had on some teams. Can you flip it though the other way, that maybe for some teams it's worked to their benefit, and for some players it's maybe they found it easier to play in front of no crowds?
You know, I was actually when Guesty was talking there, I was actually thinking that you know it is disappointing that Warnock hasn't got the reception, but I think the likes of Dykesdale, Bowler, Saville, those types of players have excelled because there's no fans and there's no pressure. So I think it actually has worked in our favour. But now it would be interesting to see how they would react with fans within the ground.
Yeah. I think it will be very different, won't it? It's got that element where there's maybe some players will feel the pressure when there's crowds there, where maybe they don't subconsciously at the minute because there's no people in the ground. They're just getting on with the game and not thinking about things too much. But who knows? That'll hopefully, we might get to find that out later in the season if we are allowed back into the grounds by the end of the season. Sheffield Wednesday, I know it's over a week away from that, but predictions for that game. Come to you first, Guesty.
Oh, that's a test of that, James. Like you say, I can't go against the Boro. I'll go for a 2-1 win, Boro. But like you say, it's going to be one of them where you just got to hang on to your chair, really, isn't it? You know what I mean? Hope your eyes don't bleed too much watching it.
I certainly think, in a way, maybe, Tony, I don't know about you, David, it might be more entertaining on the touchline and rather what's going to be on the pitch.
Yeah, definitely. We all, like you mentioned before we went on the show, we all know how much Warnock hates Sheffield Wednesday, so he'll go out with a point to prove. But I think similar, Tony Pulis will want to come out and have a point to prove with us. You know, we've seen that when we played Stoke at home when he was in charge of us. So under the circumstances, I would take a draw, because I think that is our tricky next four game out of the next 4 games. So I think if we can get something on there and then build onto the other games, I'd be quite happy with that.
Yeah. And how about yourself, Joe?
I think looking at it on a results base, I think even though Sheffield bottom of the league, because obviously they had that points deduction, if we judge it by if they were on 0 points, they would probably be around mid-table. So we just have to look at it and go, I'll take a win. I'll probably agree with Guesty. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Boro win, because it'll be a tight game, even though you would consider Sheffield at the bottom of the league, but you can't judge it.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenging game on so many fronts. And as we've said before, if you can come out from 2 games with 4 points and away in a whole game, that's not to be sniffed at. But to get 6 all,
that's promotion form, James. That's promotion form, isn't it? You know what I mean? So
definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, unfortunately, lads, we've run out of time for this evening. Got to say many thanks to Joe, David and Guesty. Great to have you back on, mate, and great to have you lads on again.
Yeah, no worries, mate.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to be back, James. Thanks.
Brilliant. Hope you out there. You've enjoyed the show. Just a word of warning, next week the show's going to go out on the Wednesday night next week. So if we don't have a Rotherham game to talk about, we're going to have the Sheffield Wednesday game at least to talk about, and look ahead to our first ever league encounter with Wycombe Wanderers. So we'll be out again next Wednesday night. That's the 30th of December. All it remains for me to do is, on behalf of Boro Fan TV and the lads I'm sure on the show tonight, is wish you all a Merry Christmas and hopefully a successful New Year for the Boro. So it's good night from everyone here. And
Merry Christmas, everyone.
All the best, lads.
You all right, James?